All right, recording is on. There are 12 tactics in Shift, and Brad's going to take away tactic 1 today, and then we're going to mastermind, take your questions, and see how we could help you and support you in your business currently. So, Brad, take it away.
Yeah, welcome. I would just jump right in. I think Gary put these in critical order. I think that how we think, our mindset, is the number one thing that we can do out of the gate in any shifting market. If you've been in real estate for, 10 years, you may not have really experienced a shift. If you've been in it more like 15 or 20, you've experienced at least one, depending on the market that you're in. And how you think, I would argue passionately, the number one thing that will affect how you go through this and how you come out of this as a business owner. So just starting right off with the very first quote in that tactic is, decide what your priorities are and how much you'll spend on those priorities. If you don't, someone else will. You got to decide what your priorities are, and then you've got to get into action. This tactic is actually mindset and action. It's not just mindset. It's making those decisions and then getting into action around them. So I'd love to just rehash one of the things that we've talked about in Bold over the years, which is the power of making a decision, right? If we think about the word decide, right? It means to kill off all other options, to kill off all other options. When you make a decision, all the hemming and hawing goes away. All of the uncertainty goes away. And now we are moving fully in a direction. There's incredible power in that when you actually decide. Many times, a real estate agent or a business owner actually doesn't decide. And what that looks like is they start moving in a direction, but they continually second guess. They continually rehash. Is this the right direction I should be going in? Is this what we should be doing? And so forth. So I want to challenge you to look at your business today and go, where am I going with this? What is the commitment I'm making to myself? Close the door to everything else and move with focus and move with purpose. That is the best thing that we can be doing right now in terms of getting our head in that space. So what does that mean? What does that actually mean to live that out? Well, let me ask you, are you committed? Are you committed to being that fiduciary person for everybody you know? Are you committed to being that expert? Are you committed to being that resource to come and support other people when they have a need in real estate? Are you committed to being that person? And are you committed to proactively reaching out to them in whatever format you see is important? And we're going to talk about how and what are those conversations and all that kind of stuff as we get into the other tactics. I want to know from you right now, are you actually committed to doing it? Are you committed to making this more about other people than about yourself? When we make it about ourselves, here's how I typically see that show up. Some of us are going to make it about ourselves, and that means we're going to hide. And by hide, I don't mean social distancing. I mean, I'm turning my phone off. I'm putting my head in the sand and like, la, 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 la. I don't want to know about it. I don't want to know about it. I just want to hide from it all. Some of us are going to be very negative about the impact that this is having on us. If you're sitting there going, woe is me, I promise you, and this is hard to hear sometimes, but that means that you're making it all about you. And if we're in a space right now where we're making it about us, we aren't living out that fiduciary commitment to the people that we know and the people we serve, and instead making it all about them. You will find joy in the days and weeks to come if you are proactively looking for ways to help and to serve other people. If you're finding ways to keep transactions going from being under contract to closing right now, even with all the new hurdles, right? A week ago in Massachusetts, I was with some of my coaching clients and we were talking about, what do we do about the smoke search? Some of the towns are shutting down, right? Look for solutions, look for ways to work through it. One of our guys from our office, Jeff Matei, I just realized he was on, they did a bunch of virtual tours of homes, and they've put a bunch of homes under contract just in the last few days because they're doing and taking these steps. These are things we can do. We're staying focused on how to serve our clients. We're staying focused on how we deliver and support other people. And when we do that, we live out our commitment. We live out that decision that we've made. So I want to challenge you to make a decision right now. Are you going to continue to show up as a support for those people that you know? And are you going to be there for them as they have needs? Are we going to proactively reach out to them and say, how are you? I know it's a challenging script, so I will give you guys a second to write it down. How are you? Right? You get all that? You got all that? Okay. Yeah, it's a pretty simple script. How are you? What's going on? How can I help? I would encourage you to start at a very human level. As you do that, they will ask, how are you? And I think it's good to share with them broadly and narrowly around real estate. Broadly, tell them how you're doing, right? Is your spouse or loved one, kind of freaking out right now? You guys driving yourselves crazy? And then let them know what's going on in the real estate market. And you know what? That's going to be a moving target. Our job is to educate, right? One of the things I love about real estate is we cannot talk people into buying when they don't want to buy. True? Just nod if you believe that. We cannot force somebody to sell a house that doesn't want to sell it. What we can do is be there, be a fiduciary, fight for what they need, educate them, facilitate. Those are all things that we can do. And we might have to do a bunch more of it to do the same amount of business. So I want to challenge all of us to just make sure that we're in the right headspace when it comes to what's going on right now. And one of the easiest ways we can do that is don't make it about you. Make it about every person who's in your phone, every person who's in your database, every person you're connected with on Facebook. If you stay focused on them, good things happen. Good things happen. Here's the other thing I want to challenge you to do. I want you to make a list of people who you will reach out to when you feel that you're struggling with that. Perhaps that's a team leader in your office. Perhaps that's an ALC member. Perhaps it's a coach. I will tell you right now, for some of you, I don't know, because there's 100 people on here, and I'm sure I don't know some of you. I want to be that resource to every single one of you. I'm here to help. I know Jen is here to help. I know our region is here to help. So if you've got something to write with, write it down right now. 207-808-9177. 207-808-9177. That's a phone number I picked up in a bathroom at a truck stop. No, I'm kidding. That's my cell phone number. Call anytime. And I promise you, there are hundreds of people in our region that will do the same. Just make sure you've got a list of people around you who, when you can feel yourself struggling, when you can feel yourself wavering, that it's time to pick up the phone and get a lift, get a boost. And I think those people, if you've got somebody calling you like that, I'm thinking, Jen, you're going to get this call a bunch, I'm sure. When those people call, our job is to help you make sure that a bad day doesn't turn into a bad week, or a bad week doesn't turn into a bad month. We're all going to struggle at some point as we go through this. This is moving really fast, right? And humans only have so much capacity for change. So we're all going to struggle at different points with this. Surrounding yourself with people who can help you, help lift you out, help you stay focused on what you should. That's where you're going to get you're going to be able to stay on track. Be that buoy for others and make sure you know who is that person for you. I want to touch on a couple other things here, and then I want to open it up for questions. It is much easier, so keep this in mind. Again, we're going to decide which one are we going to be in this. It's much easier to slip by the competition when they have their heads down pouting? Are you going to be somebody in this market who's going to be focused on the things we cannot do? Or are you going to be the rare agent in this market who's focused on the people that we can serve and the things we can do to help? It's a very simple choice, but we actually have to make that choice. That's what we actually have to do. And it's a very active thing. And when we do, then we have to look at our actions. We've got to look in the frickin' mirror and go, all right, Brad, are you living that out? Are you living that out? And I'm not pointing at you guys, I'm pointing at myself. Are my actions now in alignment with how I say I'm going to act? And if not, I need to look and see, okay, what do I need to be doing different? Or I need to call my coach, or I need to call my team leader. I need to call that agent who's always got an ear for me. And I say, man, I need help with this. It's okay. It's okay to do that. But let's make sure we do it quickly, okay? Here's a challenge I want to have for you. When you know you start to go off track, what is an early sign for you? I remember I've got a great coaching client who his early sign is his desk is a mess. He typically keeps it clean, typically keeps it neat, and when it becomes a mess, he knows he's off track. So just by stepping back on almost a daily basis and going, is my desk a mess? If the answer is yes, okay, I'm off track. I know I got to get back on track. I know I do. What are those early signs for you? Not what does it look like a week down the road of being off track or a month down the road of being off track. What are the first signs for you that you know, shoot, I'm stumbling here? And what are the tools that you can use to get back on track? I think that's a really important thing to do. I want to encourage people to throw questions up on the chat so that we can talk about this robustly. This is the format that we want to do each day. Hopefully you can see the power of mindset and that it doesn't stop with mindset, that it starts with mindset and very quickly has to become action. One of the things we can do is we can be looking at our calendar going, well, where are my actions built into today? And if they're not, what are the actions that I should be taking built into today? You know, am I reaching out and calling everybody? You know, and maybe you're newer to real estate and you've got a limited database. Okay, look at Facebook. How many people do you know on Facebook? I had a great idea this morning when some of our offices got together is, you know, who's running virtual first-time homebuyer seminars or seller seminars or investor seminars? What a great way to set that up, structure it so that your database gets invited to it and very easily can invite others to it. What a great way to meet new people by positioning yourself as the real estate expert. All right, I'm going to try to grab some of these questions as I go. Thoughts on sellers that want to temporarily withdraw a listing? Sure. I get it. I don't think we're here to make choices for people about their actual safety. So let's make sure that we communicate that. The other thing I think we want to make sure we communicate to people is, hey, whatever is right for you, I'm going to be here for you. Right? Whether we sell your house 5 weeks from now, 5 months from now, or 5 years from now, I'm going to be in real estate forever. So I'm here to help. And I think that's a powerful script to make sure that people understand that urgency in terms of getting it on the market right now, it actually has to come from them, not from you. However, I think there is also a question that we need to ask them. With everything going on, do you think it's going to drive up prices in the near term? Or do you think it's going to drive down prices in the near term? What do you guys think the answer is? Point up if you think prices are going up, point down if you think prices are going down. Yeah, a lot of thumbs down.
A lot of mixes.
If buyers are pulling out of the market, typically that means we have less demand. Typically we could see a downturn in pricing. How much? Nobody knows. Right? Yeah, as Jeff said, we advise, the client decides. But I think just asking that question helps them to realize the impacts of their decision. We know what the market looks like right now. We have no idea what it's going to look like 90 days from now. And that's not new because of what we're living in. That is always, right? Another question.
Brad, there's a question on here. How do we help agents refocus?
You muted yourself, Jen, just as you were getting going. Can you say it again?
A question on here is, how do we help agents get refocused?
How do we help agents get refocused? So I would argue it should be about activity, right? And our activity should start with the people that we know, which means our database. So people, what we used to call in the MREA our METs, right? Have you literally called every single MET you have? For some of you, that might be something that takes only a week or two. For some of you, you might spend a month and a half doing that, depending on the size of your database. So I would start there, get into action there, and start with that really complicated script. Does anybody remember that complicated script I gave you? How are you? Yeah. How are you? How are you guys doing? How are you holding up? Do you need anything? Eventually, if I ask 5 or 6 questions like that, what do you think the question is that they're going to hit me with?
They're going to ask how are you.
Bingo. Yeah. Now, I will tell you in a very strange way, like that's the wiring of our culture. That's not the wiring of all cultures. It does happen to be the wiring of our culture. So when somebody says, how are you? They're like, man, thanks so much for asking, right? Show appreciation for that. Thanks so much for asking. It feels good when somebody asks about you. I just, we called all of our ALC members the other day just to check in on everybody, see how their business were doing, all that kind of stuff. And an hour after I talked to them all, 2 of them called me back and said, hey, Brad, how are you? Man, that felt good. It felt good to get that call. So just know that, when you're asking them, it's going to feel good. When they ask you, it's okay for that to feel good for you. It's okay to be vulnerable in that moment. And I think it's also okay to let them know what's going on in real estate. Here's what we're seeing in the real estate market. Here's how that's affecting us right now. Depending on what state you're in, that's going to be a slightly different story. But our job is to educate them about that. One thing I want you to know is, way I like to ask this is, if you have a trusted auto mechanic right now, somebody who you know is going to do a good job for you, they're never going to price gouge you, they're always going to give you the best advice, they're going to tell you if, hey, not for nothing, you can probably hold off on that, you don't need to do those, but you're going to need it in 3 months. That kind of guy or gal, doesn't that feel good? Doesn't it feel great to have somebody in a particular industry that you can trust and that you can rely on? You get to be that person for everyone you know in real estate. You get to be that person. We're not going to be able to convey that to them unless we pick up the damn phone. Be a critical part. We got to let them know that we're here for them. So I would encourage you, take more action now, especially if you're seeing your showings tail off, if you're seeing some of the other activity tail off, you have more time, right? This is not a time to be working less, I would argue, okay? If anything, I had a conversation at the beginning of last week with my wife, and I said, in a weird way, our business is probably going to go down, and I'm probably going to be working 50% more. And yeah, I spent all Saturday morning on the phone where normally it's family time. And I spent time on the phone with people on Sunday when it's normally family time. I'm going to swing out of balance a little bit to make sure that all of our people know we are here for you. We're here to help. How can I help you? How can I be a resource for you? Jen, what other questions are we seeing?
I see. Do you have a good affirmation for the morning that would be useful during this period to?
Can you say it again? You broke up halfway through it.
Do you have a good morning affirmation that would be useful during this time to ensure we are purposeful?
Yeah, love it. I think each of you are going to have to write your own version of that. I'm a huge fan of affirmations being the first step towards a new habit. So it really depends on what is that new habit that you need to be forming right now. If it's around, if you're struggling picking up the phone to have a conversation with people, I think the affirmation needs to be around how much you can help and how important a call to somebody right now might help buoy their spirits and how they're feeling about everything. If you're struggling, just looking at your own financial picture right now going, man, if these two things don't close, we're going to be strapped, then I think your affirmation should be around abundance, that you are going to have everything that you need, right? The birds don't wake up each morning worried about where their next meal is going to come from. Neither should you, right? If you're finding that you're a worrier, that's like a default setting for you, I promise you are not going to do one more real estate deal because you worried about it. You're not going to be happier because you worried about it, right? So finding ways to let that go. I leave my worry, at somebody else's doorstep. I'm a person who comes from abundance, right? I give, therefore I receive. So I think that's a great question, Jen, and I would encourage you, pick the piece that you're going to struggle with a little bit here. For those of you who are wired to be extremely optimistic, I'm actually going to encourage you to find affirmations that keep you planted in reality. We don't want our head in the clouds and rose-colored glasses. That can be just as destructive as somebody who is extremely pessimistic, who's wringing their hands going, what if, what if, what if? Either way, whether you're on the optimism side or the skepticism side, I would encourage you to be finding ways to be planted in reality now and be focused on the activity that you can take to help others. What else we got, Jen?
You know what? We have 5 minutes left because we are ending right at 12 o'clock today. I just wanted to add one from the book here. Linda Alexander from Portland said, agents must rethink, restructure, refresh, re-energize, and reinvent every aspect of their business. I thought that was a good add-on to where we were going with this.
Absolutely. And it's, I promise you that there will be pieces that you never thought you would have to look at in terms of redoing, rebuilding, restructuring of your business. One of the things that we're talking about in our market center right now is, I don't know as if we're ever going to need a really massive training room again. Not that we aren't going to do a mountain of training, but if we spend the next 2 to 3 months doing this all the time, there's a bunch of our training that's just going to live virtually from now on. And maybe we come up with other things that in terms of how we deliver other training pieces that need to be live. But that's going to be a major shift for a market center to go, we don't really necessarily need it. I want everybody to pay attention to Shirley's iPhone because she's pounding on a seller's head right now. Can you guys see that? She's hammering somebody's head. No, she's probably putting a sign in. Okay, never mind. Yeah, let's stay focused on the things that we can control and be willingness. Just come at it with a willingness to examine every aspect of your business and say, does this need to change? Does this need to change? Be willing to ask that question, right? And one of the best ways that we can do that is recognize, are we really tied to the outcome? And how can we segregate ourselves from that? How can we separate ourselves from the outcome so that we can genuinely, without prejudice, ask the question, what needs to change? And it's going to be hard. I mean, you're going to be looking at stuff that you never thought you would consider either cutting as an expense, changing in terms of marketing. As we go through these tactics, You know, there's no part of your business that has the potential of being touched by this. And if we're going to live through this, we're going to survive to then thrive. Our mindset has to be in a place where we're focused on the actions we can take. We got time for about maybe one more there, Jen.
Yep, I got one more over here. It says, what is the first thing you can bring up to a seller that now is still a great time to list your property?
Yeah, to me, I mean, one of the, I think the simple things to do is to ask the question of, you know, where do they see prices going near term based off of everything? I think most are going to see that it's going to have a downward pressure on pricing as opposed to an upward pressure on pricing. So that to me is, I think, just a cold glass of water in the face for them to understand. I think another thing that I would say is that, especially for many of your markets, I get the fortune of coaching somebody in, I think, every single state in New England. Pretty much across the board, we still have multiple buyers for every listing that comes on the market. So even if we lost 30, 40% of our buyers right now, we would still be living in a relatively strong seller's market. So if we keep that piece in mind, we know that we've got to go through that before we get to an even market, before we even get to a buyer's market. So time is of the essence. And I would argue we're probably in a better place to sell today than we are, say, 90 days from now, or maybe even 6 months from now. I would also preface, that's a crystal ball. You know, we don't know what's going to happen to interest rates. We don't know how long this is going to last. We don't really know the impact that it's going to have. What we do know is what the market looks like today. If I put your house on the market today, I'm pretty sure we would have activity today. So how important is it for you guys to move on in terms of your long-term plans? Last thing I would say is keep people focused on what they want to do long-term in real estate, because no matter what, this is going to be short-term. This isn't forever, right? So if we can keep them focused on their long-term plans, they're probably going to keep making the right decisions. How'd we do, Jen?
All right, Brad, I'm going to end it here. We're going to be coming on again tomorrow at 11:30 to 12. Please join us. Tactic 2 coming tomorrow. We hope that this was helpful for you guys and useful. You guys are the lucky 100 because we got maxed out at 100. We're gonna look to open that up tomorrow. So please don't hesitate to come back on tomorrow. We're going to have you guys ask us some great questions and go over Tactic 2. Thank you, Brad, for a great first session.
Thank you all. Be good, be safe. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.